If you're looking to get started in the cleaning industry or you're relatively new to the cleaning industry and you have questions, you've come to the right place. I'm Michelle from Made by Nature. I have 28 years experience in the cleaning industry, and this is video one of many of our cleaning industry series. I am going to hopefully be covering it all. But if we're doing a topic and I didn't cover something and you have a question, always feel free to leave it in the comments. I will always answer your questions. Like all the other YouTubers say, let's get into it. I don't think I like that. We're going to have to come up with something different. Today's video is about getting started. Where do you start in the cleaning industry? I feel like the first step is identifying your niche and visualizing where you want your business to be 10 years from now. Do you see yourself as a solo cleaner? Do you see yourself working with other teammates? Do you see yourself subcontracting? Where do you want to go with it? And if you don't know where you want to go with it yet, here's some things to consider. When I started my cleaning business back when I was in my 20s, did I just date myself there? Doesn't matter. When I started my cleaning business back in my 20s, I knew then that I wanted to grow my cleaning business to a point where I wouldn't have to always be out there cleaning. I wanted that for my business because I knew that at some point your body's just going to tell you enough is enough. So if you haven't built it to a point where you can make some residual income off of it, then I feel like all of those years of work are just done. That sounded really morbid? Of course, being a solo cleaner, you do have the option down the road of selling your business. If you've built up a really great clientele, you can always sell it, but you're not going to have that residual income. Those are just things to think about. Also, where do you see yourself expanding in the future, doing Airbnbs, maybe doing commercial like offices and banks and stuff like that, or maybe post construction cleanup? It just really all depends on, I guess, your strengths and where you want to be. There's also cleaners out there that just mainly do like move in, move out cleans. They specialize in that. They love doing it, and that is their business altogether. Now, because there's so many avenues in the cleaning business, that's why I feel it's important to really sit down and think about where you want to be or see yourself again in the next 10 years. Things to remember should you decide that you want to be a solo cleaner. You are pretty limited, I think, to what you can really realistically do. You know, I think that for solo cleaners, I think residential, Airbnb, I think those are both great. Post construction, I feel you need a team for that. It's a lot of work and there's usually deadlines. So you really can't take your time with that. There's not as much flexibility as there is with like residential or Airbnb. Even with Airbnb, depending on where you want to go with that, there's not a lot of flexibility time wise for that as well. So that might be more geared to expansion when you expand. If you're somebody that wants to expand, have employees, maybe subcontract, which we'll get into that too, subcontracting versus having employees. Yeah, I feel that you need the extra help if you are planning to expand in the future. You know what I mean? So, solo cleaner, if that is what floats your boat and you don't like working in a team environment, then I would say you're going to be pretty limited with your Airbnbs, but not really so much for your residential. Let's talk about some of the pros and the cons. I mean, I kind of just hit on a few there, but let's talk about some of the pros and the cons for different services that people do within the cleaning industry. So, starting with residential, because that is the easiest. So when you're starting a cleaning business, residential is usually where people start. And the reason is because it's really low barrier entry. You don't need a lot of money to start up a cleaning business. You have a few different options. You can either have your clients supply the material and the cleaners, or you can supply it yourself. And even still, if you supply it yourself, we're still not talking about a lot of money here. If you're having your clients supply it, pretty much minimal nothing except for your insurance, should you decide to go that route. Residential cleaning has more flexibility. You don't have to work weekends if you don't want to. You don't have to work evenings if you don't want to. You can pretty much do it around your schedule. Let's say you're a young mom, and your kids are in school, they get off the bus, let's say at 3 p.m. You can tell yourself that you want to be done work by a certain time and be home for your children. So a lot more flexibility there. Some of the cons to residential cleaning, I think that residential cleaners are often undervalued. And I think that's because people clean their own houses for so long in their life, right? And when they're cleaning their own house, they don't think it's that hard. They're not putting it into perspective of a cleaner that's going out there and busting their butt, cleaning. Maybe if you're a solo cleaner, maybe you're doing 2 houses in a day. That was never me. I am a one house a day kind of girl. But they really undervalue the work that goes into it and how intense it can be. Also, dealing with challenging clients, that's definitely a con. You're always going to have those clients that are going to have high expectations. They're going to be white gloving things, and those clients that just feel like there's no room for error. I don't really like those clients. But anyway, that could be another con. Although, if you know what you're doing in the cleaning business, not if you don't know what you're doing, that's not what I meant to say. Value yourself in the business, you just won't take those clients. You'll just move on because there's always good clients around the corner. But anyway, moving on. Let's talk about Airbnbs. So Airbnbs, it's definitely more predictable income, right? I mean, for residential cleaning, something I didn't touch base on is with residential cleaning, how unpredictable the money can be because people are canceling on you all the time. With Airbnbs, you don't really have that. If you know an Airbnb is turning over, then you know you're going to have income, right? As long as that Airbnb is in business, you're in business. Now, this I think is very dependent, but you may have the ability to turn over more cleanings in a day. It really would depend on the length of the stay of the Airbnb guest and how big it is, right? So I feel like Airbnb's most of the cleaning is a little easier than doing your residential cleaning because in residential cleaning, there's usually a lot more stuff to work around. For somebody that's only stayed for a couple of days, maybe they never used the shower. If they were only there overnight or for 2 days, maybe the shower didn't get used. You don't have to clean the shower. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you see where I'm going with this? So for the ones that do clean Airbnbs, please do not jump down my throat in the comments and say that you don't work just as hard. And because you do, honey, absolutely you do. I'm just saying that in some cases, there is the ability to do more in a day. So more predictable work, it's consistent, and I think it pays more too. So there's that. Let's talk about some of the cons to Airbnb. Some of the cons would be less flexibility. You will likely have to work weekends. If you don't like to work weekends, you may not want to consider Airbnbs. Now, Airbnbs are not always just like basic cleaning. You're often going to have to do like extra tasks, right? You have to keep the oven clean. It might be something you have to do every time you go in. A guest goes, they bake something, it overflows in the oven. You have to make sure that stays clean. You're going to have to do laundry. You're going to have to restock things. In most cases, you're likely going to have to do some sort of a damage evaluation for the host. So that may or may not be a con to you. Maybe you like doing those things, but there is no room for error in an Airbnb. You know what I mean? Towels have to be perfect. No stains on the bedding or anything has to be perfect. You may find yourself spot checking some carpets or even steam cleaning a carpet because a guest dumped something. So definitely something to consider. Now, if you've been someone that's been in the cleaning industry for a couple of years, you've started with residential and you're looking to expand, I think that Airbnbs that's the next step To me, that's the next step, preferable step. You could move it into post construction and commercial. I think that commercial, I'm going to take that back. Commercial being offices and stuff like that, or Airbnbs, are a very good next step in expanding your business into something more than residential. If you plan on expanding into Airbnbs or office cleaning, commercial cleaning, you will need to hire employees. Now, with office cleanings, I feel you could have two different shifts going. And this is where we're moving into personally in our business. You have somebody that's going to work the evenings, possibly weekends, or very early morning, right? Because office hours are office hours. Most offices are 9 to 5. So you're going to need a shift maybe that's working from 5:30 on, or a shift that comes in ridiculous hours of the morning. You're not going to be able to do both of those things. You're not going to, sorry, both of those things, meaning residential and then go out and do your office cleaning. I mean, maybe you could, but you're going to burn out. You're going to burn out. Now, let's say residential cleaning is not your thing. You don't want to clean people's homes for various reasons. Sometimes can't blame you. So I think that commercial is a great way to start. It's very stable and consistent income. And my personal favorite, it's less people-y. So if you're one of those people that if you just like to clean and you don't want to interact with people, just go get your job done, go home, could be a good avenue for you. Commercial cleaning is usually more lucrative as well. You usually get paid more for the office cleanings, and for obvious reasons. Your insurance will be more, so that's something to consider too. You will need a good amount of insurance, but you can charge more. Commercial cleanings may require different equipment as well, depending on what you're doing. So that would be something that you would need to consider. Post-construction cleanings, I think, would be the hardest to start out with because there's so many things to factor in. You would need to make sure that you're compliant with government work and safety boards. Those are different depending on where you live. I believe in the USA, I think that's OSHA. In Ontario, it's WSIB. It's different in different countries, but it's all pretty much the same thing. You need to have a really good, solid understanding of workplace safety. If post-construction is your thing, you definitely would want to do your research on that for your area, for your country, and know what you need. If you need different certifications, that may be a thing. There's going to be certain PPE that you're going to need, and your equipment is definitely going to be different. You're not going to go into a post-construction clean with a Miele vacuum. That would be weird. That is more of a specialized skill, though. The pay is going to be higher. Now, what do I mean by specialized skills when we're talking about post-construction? You are going to need to know how to properly dispose of certain things, such as paint, for this just off the top of my head, paint cans, a good knowledge of different materials like granite and different stones and different construction material, basically, and know how to clean it. You're going to have to know how to get different debris off of those surfaces, like sticker residue and paint sprays and all that. I think you know where I'm going with that. Definitely, experience is key in post-construction. If you've worked in post-construction cleanup before, maybe with another company, and you have some experience with it, maybe it's a great place for you to start. So I've given you some pros and cons in different areas of the industry. Hopefully that will help shed a little bit of light on things for you so that you know where you want to go from here. If you have anything to add to those pros and cons, again, drop it in the comments. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. In our next video, we're going to talk about some of the legalities, like registering your business, insurance, things that you might want to consider for employees, things that you have to do if you're hiring people, the difference between hiring and subcontracting, and all of those things. So, also important things to know if you're going to start a business of any kind, not just a cleaning business. We are just dipping our toes in the waters of the cleaning industry, so I hope you'll stick around. There's so much information and so many things I want to talk to you guys about. So until next time, Made by Nature out.